ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Very welcome to have joined this session today on framework conditions for innovation. This is indeed a very important topic we are discussing this afternoon and has been extensively analyzed in the European Innovation Agenda communication that has been adopted very recently on the 5th of July by the European Commission. Why it's so important? Because framework conditions, including regulations, can drive or hinder, in fact, the development and uptake of innovative new products and processes. Of course, the Commission has been, and the EU in general, has been dealing with this issue already, strengthening integration with the single market and adopting regulation to balance the need to protect with the need to innovate. And we can see that from the Commission's better regulation guidelines. But this is becoming now even more important because of the nature of breakthrough deep tech innovations and also because of the urgency of the twin transition. So indeed there is a call for more progress towards a more responsible framework regulation. And in order to facilitate the innovators and the innovators to experiment, to support the citizen and the public to accept, and also to enable regulators to learn and adapt the regulations in new domains. Of course, member states as well are doing their parts, and very often it's very important to enable them to share the distinct approaches that they are putting forward and help their efforts, as I said, innovators and regulators to tackle this important challenge. So today, the objective of today's session is indeed to discuss all this with a very distinguished panel of personalities that comes from the private sector, our innovators, from the public sector in the member states, and from public decision maker at the European Commission, to see if what I always like to do, there is a reality check of what the Commission has put forward in the Commission by the innovators, and also to check with the public authorities and with the Commission what are the tools in order to move forward in this direction. So, as I said, one by one you will know the very important speakers that are with me today. But since we wanted that this is an interactive panel with a lot of also answers to your questions, please remember that we have a Slido. And here is, I think that should appear in your screen, the hashtag for the Slido, so that you can post your questions and we will try to provide you the answers. But before further ado on that, let me start already with introducing the first two speakers. As I said, they represent really the innovators part, and this is why I like to check with them if what we are saying as well in the communication, the needs of innovation, is important. So for them, there will be a single question, and first of all, I like to welcome Anna Barajacic. And I hope I did it well. I tried this morning, but still it probably doesn't enter my head. Is an international expert in entrepreneurship and early stage investment, collaborating with the lasting European international organization. She has been founded Connectology, an international boutique agency which develops entrepreneurship and investment readiness projects. And last but not least, she's a member of the EIC board, which advises the Commission on the overall strategy for the EIC. Welcome, Anna. And at the same time, I'd like to welcome Peter Westerbacher. Again, it's an entrepreneur, a co-founder, amongst other things, of Ines Buy Area / HP Bazaar. He has been organizing since 2008 the Slash as a starting up event that has become an international event. And last but not least, is a member of the European Ecosystem Leaders Group, a group that led by the Commissioner Gabriel and brings together leading independent startup ecosystem leaders across the 27 member states. I'm sure I forgot something from your CV because it's very rich, but this is to show people that indeed you have an incredible incredible experience in the field, and that's why I would really like you to share your views with the audience on why do you think that indeed we need an experimentation space, such as mentioned in the communication, regulatory sandboxes, living labs, test beds to test innovation. And also if you can tell us how these tools could help us to better deploy innovative solutions. So I would start with Anna. So please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here and share my views. Thank you for the question. I personally think we absolutely need experimentation spaces to test and encourage innovative solutions to help us solve or tackle our societal challenges. And in this consideration, we need to account for main beneficiaries of such solutions, which are, of course, innovators, policymakers, investors, and consumers. And this is important because all of these beneficiaries having their role in the experimentation space, it's relevant for them in a number of ways. So the first stakeholder, of course, those are innovators, and also here representing the EIC board, I need to really emphasize that we are always really keen to support and put innovators first. So for them, it's really important, obviously, to test the technology and have a controlled environment where they can really see if a solution works or not. This can also attract investors for them. Then the risk of the project is reduced. And of course, it helps to commercialize the innovations they come up with. However, we need to be mindful of the fact that not all entrepreneurs have the same ability to access experimentation spaces. So we need to make sure to support them, to provide resources for them to be able to have, let's say, a good starting off point across Europe, and especially for entrepreneurs from the widening countries. The second stakeholder are policymakers or the government. And for them, of course, it's important to prepare a better future regulation. And of course, it also can lead to when testing and seeing that something works, it can lead to public entities actually becoming customers, which then enables smart procurement. We have a great example in Europe, which is the Swedish National Testbed Strategy, which is a great example of collaboration between, for instance, individual testbeds in the country. And as opposed to that, as a comparison, for instance, in the US, there were some initiatives in various states of launching regulatory sandboxes, which didn't even attract enough participants. So we see this contrast, and we see also that it's not enough just to have the instrument. And the challenge is to make things happen on a European level. For instance, can you imagine having regulatory sandboxes on an EU level, and what a great impact this would make for companies and countries alike. And for this reason, the innovation agenda foresees the creation of GovTech Incubator next year, precisely to emphasize this cross-border collaboration. The third stakeholders are, of course, investors, and for them, as long as the risk of investment is reduced, they are, of course, more likely to invest in projects. So for them also, the experimentation spaces are very important. And last but not the least, the fourth stakeholder are the consumers, which, having tested technologies and innovations in a controlled environment, can actually have more choice, which is safer and more innovative. And here we need to also take in consideration that perhaps for countries that have that are building their innovative cultures, we can use behavioral science to frame messages and communication about such initiatives.
Thanks a lot. Anna, I need to, sorry, interrupt you. I think you were almost at the end because we have a very tight time and we need all speakers to be able to pass their message. So you will have a chance again to eventually come back to that. If you don't mind, anyway, you have figured out already the 4 groups. I would like now, Peter, to please come back to the question, please, and address from your side. What is your point of view? Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I think that some very good points there. And I think that, you know, the starting point, if you look at Europe, we're in very good shape. I think that we have, you know, of course, we all know that people enjoy like the European lifestyle and they all want to be Europeans. And if they're not yet Europeans, they are like Europeans at heart. So I think that in this current world situation, I think that Europe has never been more popular, and I think this is very good. We have fantastic education, fantastic universities, but I think, and also I would say, I don't know if I would say fantastic regulation, but we have some good regulation, and that's also very important for all of us entrepreneurs, that we have an environment that is the same for everybody, and we have a level playing field. I mean, we have many examples of where it can be very, very unfair if you don't happen to be, you know, from a particular country or something like that. So I think that's very important that we have a level playing field for all of us here in Europe, no matter if we are, you know, EU citizens or not. So I think this is something that's very important. But then one thing that I think also is very important, that, you know, it doesn't matter if we have kind of like the best education on the planet if we don't do anything with that. So we really need to get more entrepreneurial. And I've been to so many, you know, very nice but empty buildings. And I think that it's easy to build, it's easy to regulate, it's easy to do, or I mean, easy, but let's say, relatively speaking. But I think that it's very important that we fill these buildings, we fill these frameworks with activity, you know, entrepreneurship. And one thing that I always say, and I'll say it again, is that it's very important for us, you know, like slightly older people, to make sure that we also, you know, make sure that we keep the governments and the old people out of the way while the young people change the world and Europe. So I think that it's really, really important that we put the young people in charge. We give them the responsibility. I mean, after all, young people are the future. So this is something that we really need to do. And here, the universities, I think, in Europe are doing a fantastic job, but we need to get also more entrepreneurial activity to every campus and then into every, you know, sandbox. And of course, we need more sandboxes, because who doesn't like to play, you know, in various sandboxes? So that's something that is very important. But again, young people, that's kind of like where I would start.
Thanks a lot, Peter. Peter, Anna, you have already, since the start, gave already very good insights. You were already making the same comment on this level playing field and to look at not to leave anybody behind. So this is something that I see in both, and the accent on the young people as well from Peter. It's indeed very important. So definitely from your both intervention, we see experimentation is key. But it's also true that it's not the only way to steer innovation and improve the framework condition. That's why, even if I see that he has disappeared, I hope he will appear again, we want to look a bit on the role of the public sector as well. With our next speaker. So the public sector can be indeed a lead customers which can shape markets, can deliver improved and accessible solutions, can crowd in private investments where these are lacking, and they really can be the customers of innovative startups. So there is a special role to be played by the public sector, and that's why I'm very pleased to discuss this with our next speaker, which is Michael Richardson. He's the head of cabinet of the Deputy Minister of Development and Investment in Greece. He has worked as an advisor to 2 ministers, 2 deputy ministers in development and investment, but he has been, especially in his last capacity, has the role to design and develop the national startup registry called Elevate Greece, and also has been working with the relevant state aid calls, the public-private partnership call, technology transfer, so a lot, and also has been involved with the, of course, the development linked to the RRF projects in RTDI. So, of course, this is extremely relevant for the discussion today. So my question to you is, of course, we have seen that experimentation gives substantial evidence to be useful to develop technologies, but then how could the innovation procurement, for instance, facilitate the uptake of these innovation solutions? So, Michael, floor is to you. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the kind invitation. It's a great honor and pleasure for me to be here with you today. I'll tell you what we're doing here in Greece as far as innovation procurement is concerned, in order to proceed in a more fast and efficient way. We have established a national competence center for innovation procurement under our ministry, the Ministry of Development and Investments. And this is under the National Central Purchasing Body for Goods and General Services, is supposed to provide these central purchasing activities. We have also at the same time established a 3-day course for innovation procurement for our public procurement officers in collaboration with the National Center for the Public Administration. This is done through webinars for the academic and research community in collaboration with the Council of Rectors of Universities in Greece. At the same time, we're working on networking and collaborations with the Ministry of Digital Governance, the General Secretariat for Research and Innovation, the General Secretariat for Industry, the Horizon Europe National Contact Points, of course, and the Hellenic Federation of Enterprises in order to design and implement joint actions in the field of innovation procurement regarding digital transformation. And we also fund pilot activities and map the innovative enterprises and startups in order to prepare the National Action Plan for Innovation Procurement. There is a working team consisting of several ministries and other key stakeholders, which works on that topic in order to promote the role of innovation procurement in Greece and come up with key proposals to achieve such a goal. As far as the capitalization at the policy level, there's a joint declaration for innovation procurement in the EU. As you know, it is an initiative introduced by Greece in the P2I European network of competence centers for innovation procurement. It sets policy goals to member states and the EU in order to enhance implementation of innovation procurement in the EU. It was announced at the Competitiveness Council, the Internal Market and Industry on the 29th of December 2021 by the Greek Minister, and it was supported by Italy, Cyprus, Luxembourg, Germany, and Austria. And as far as the collaboration with the European Innovation Council, and it will take place in December 22, as I know, at the back-to-back with the P2I network kickoff meeting on the 13th of December, which will take place in Athens. So the challenges will be in regard to the health domain on 2 topics: disinfection of intensive care units and water and energy efficiency in the public sector buildings in the health field. So we need to test solutions in real world, as you mentioned earlier. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Michael, or Mikael. Anyway, so that's very, very interesting, and it's really the concrete experience in the field of a member state. And this leads me very easily to say exactly to the next speakers, because in fact what you are showing is the member states are doing, are operating, and they are creating the framework condition, but this is not always the case. Sometimes there is a lack of awareness, there is a lack of knowledge how to do it. Therefore, there are certain uncertainties that can hinder the design and the implementation of better innovation policies. So I'm very, very pleased to be here with the Director of DG Reform, Natalie Berger. Welcome. She's, as I said, she's a Director in DG Reform, responsible for the technical assistance in growth enhancing reforms in the member states in the area of revenue administration, public financial management, governance and public administration, sustainable growth and business environment, labor market, a lot. So it's and it goes on. So a very important responsibility. You are responsible for a tool which is very well known, is the technical support instrument. Actually, as a service as well, we know it very well. In DG Research, we are working very closely with your services to ensure complementarity. Also, I have to promote also the policy support facility, which is a sectoral support instrument for member states for reforms. But the technical support instrument very linked to the RRF and the new EU Next Generation. So just I would like to hear from you, how could this tool that you are managing develop better innovation policies, and how could member states mobilize themselves to take advantage of it? Please.
Thank you very much. You first mentioned your policy support instrument that you're using to support the innovation policies at the RTD. And I think that the two instruments, so our technical support instrument and your instrument, of course, can cooperate, can work very well together, either in a simultaneous manner or successively supporting, of course, the objective of innovation in line with our innovation agenda in the Commission. So in the Commission Directorate General for Structural Reform Support, we provide technical support with our technical support instrument to the design and the implementation of reforms in all the areas of the economy, and of course including the area of research and innovation. And this support is available on request to the member states through our technical support instrument. And by improving the research and innovation capacity in the member states, the technical support instrument contributes to making the national economies greener, digital and more resilient. So to give you some examples of how we can mobilize our instrument to allow the member states to move forward in the area of innovation, we can provide support, for example, to member states to design the appropriate policy and governance frameworks for research and innovation, in line with the green and digital transition, and of course to enhance the cooperation between businesses and science, because the cooperation, as our first speaker mentioned it, the cooperation between the different types of stakeholders is utterly important. We provide support to develop ecosystems, providing deep and diverse opportunities for companies and for SMEs searching for financing in the context of the innovation environment. We help developing innovative approaches to active labor market policies, health and education, by encouraging fast acquisition of new sets of digital skills, rapid procurement of the desired equipment, and fast technological development to integrate cutting-edge devices and technologies in the working methods. So our activities, you see, they really fit into the flagship on improving the policy-making tools that is set out in the new European Innovation Agenda, which, by the way, refers to the technical support instrument. I can give you some concrete examples of projects that we are supporting in the area of innovation. One in Slovenia on strengthening the innovation ecosystem and improving the governance model of the research and innovation system. This project will support Slovenia's effort to improve and implement a new model of governance of the research and innovation system. And there is a link between this project and the Recovery and Resilience Plan of Slovenia that will allow to make a steep change in the effectiveness of the Slovenian research and innovation governance system. In Spain, for example, we have a project to overcome barriers to innovation in entrepreneurship ecosystems at regional level. So you see, we can intervene at national level and we can intervene at regional level. So here we will overcome barriers for innovation in the entrepreneurship ecosystems in 4 Spanish regions in specific sectors with current underdevelopment of entrepreneurship, and with at the same time high potential for resilience in crisis. And here we will also enable the Green Deal and digital transition. In Romania, through the Startup Ecosystem Strategy, we have provided support to building the implementation capacity required to draft and implement a national startup ecosystem strategy. We've also helped deepen international linkages and networks among key actors in Romania's entrepreneurial ecosystem with their counterparts in peer and aspirational ecosystems. And the aim there is to improve Romania's innovative and entrepreneurial performance. And this is an example of how DG Reform, in collaboration with the Member States, is working towards the goals set out in the new European Innovation Agenda to position Europe at the forefront of the new wave of deep tech innovation and startups.
Thanks a lot, Natalie. A lot is going on. So indeed, TSI was mentioned in the communication, and you show already that it's a lot moving in this direction of support of member states and very good examples. And indeed, I confirm that there is a lot of complementarities between the instruments, and we are working very well together to the benefit of the member states. Now, I will, thanks a lot. We close this first round, and for the second round, I would kindly ask you to really limit your intervention to very short statements, and there is an aspect which is very important we have not discussed yet, and still was mentioned in the communication. That is the link to data, evidence and data, and the consistency of data to come up with the policy decisions, of course. Because when we want an impact in the innovation policies, we need to be able to monitor them, to evaluate them, and of course we need that there is a consistency of the terminology of the, as I said, the data. So my question to all of you, and we keep the order that we used for the first round, if you don't mind. So I'm asking you, what would be the impact of data-informed innovation policy making, and what should be taken into consideration in order to improve existing database and definition? Maybe with an access on the improvement, because this is very important as well. So please, Anna, floors to you. And as I said to all of you, be quick.
Oh, thank you. Well, I think we all agree that data is really crucial, or should be crucial, for informed decision making. And as we know, we have the European Innovation Scoreboard, which is also a great example with a lot of uniform methodology and detailed definitions and great data collection that can be used for comparison between the member states, but also beyond Europe. From my perspective, since I'm representing also the IC board here, I can tell you that we have also carved out a number of key performance indicators for our recommendations to be based on data. As you know, various entities have and measure impact in various ways, and in the EIC board has recommended a set of KPIs that are, for instance, related to share of female-led companies supported by the EIC program, share of widening companies supported by the EIC programs, a number of new unicorns, etc. And we really need to make sure that all these KPIs that various entities come up with are translatable and can be compared in various innovation ecosystems, not only in Europe, but outside of Europe. As you know, in the markets, we have an abundance of data and definitions. And I think what is really important here is also to have the political will to change the status quo, because we can have great databases and great definitions, but if we have policymakers who don't interpret data well, or just have no willingness to change the status quo, then probably things will not change. So that's also quite important from my view.
Thanks a lot, Anna. And I move now to Mikael. So, floors to you on the data.
Yes, thank you. As far as data are concerned, I will also consider them to be of imperative importance. We take example of the European Innovation Scoreboard. It is a very important tool for us to see areas that we are lagging behind and areas that we can improve. This is an example. But I will also give you an example for our country again. We wanted to map the national startup ecosystem, and we didn't know which companies were real startup companies and which companies were just newly founded. So we set up a mechanism in order to evaluate them, and we established a registry. It's called Elevate Greece Registry, in order to form policies to help these specific companies, the startup companies, because they are in the very early stages, most of them. They are in the Death Valley. We also had the COVID-19 crisis, and they needed more attention and care from our side. In that respect, we asked from our scientific board, which advises our government, to give us a definition of what is a startup. And following their advice, we set up this mechanism I explained before. The basic criteria are two. They have to be really innovative and disruptive. And the second criteria is to be really scalable businesses, not only in Greece, but of course worldwide. And having that potential, these two basic criteria are enough if they are fully met, both of them, in order to be registered. And now we have a clear mapping of these startup companies, where they are located, the sectors they operate, the funding they received, the male and female founders and co-founders. And we are setting strategies around this data right now. And we hope to see our national startup ecosystem to flourish. We have good evidence so far, but we expect in the next years that it will be booming. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Michael. Again, a lot of good initiatives in your country. Natalie, any view from DG Reform side on the data and the importance of that?
Absolutely. And with the technical support instrument, we are actually supporting member states and regions in designing and implementing better innovation policies, covering, of course, essential support to cover data gathering for informed policy making, capacity building for public procurement personnel, or the provision of regulatory advice and the use of regulatory sandboxes. And listening to Anna and Mikael, I was just thinking of a project that we are launching this year, and which is actually a multi-country project led by Greece with 9 member states. And this project is on evidence-based policy making. So data and the integration and the use of data in policy making. And I would like to say that in recent times, evolutions in information technologies revolutionized the decision-making process, in particular in policy making. So beforehand, decision-making was influenced by factors other than empirical evidence, like personal experiences, beliefs, hunches, etc. Nowadays, the increased capacity regarding the collection and the analysis of large data sets allows decision makers to mitigate the potential biases and making more accurate data-driven and evidence-based decisions. So we really need to work on this. We also, if I look in the projects that we do in that context, we also, in several of our projects, support the digitalization of the public administration, and we had to optimize the provision of online public services to also have better connected and innovative service delivery to the citizens and the businesses, and I'm thinking in particular of the startups and the innovators. So that's where you have the link, of course, with the public services and innovation and research.
Indeed, which is the key link, in fact, to make the things move forward. Thanks a lot, Natalie. Now, I bombarded you with questions, but we want as well to hear from the public. And in Slido, I see that there are 2 questions that are appearing. So maybe I will ask to split a bit between you. Unfortunately, we have lost the connection with Peter. This helps us gaining a bit of time because we are running a bit late. So the 2 questions, and I let you to decide. Maybe, Anna, the first one is for you, and the second one is for the other 2 speakers. So the first one is linked to ask why it is important to ensure coordination and synergies and how. And also this is in fact linked also to the EIC forum. You are part of the board, so that would be nice to hear from you. And then the second question is probably Natalie and Michael who can answer, is linked to give examples or actions on how to remove the barriers and boost the innovation performance of SMEs with the tools mentioned. So thanks already at the moment for the questions coming from the audience. And the floor is to Anna for the first question, please.
Thank you. This allows me, since you kindly said that we have a bit more time now, just to finish my thoughts from the first question, which I think it's a good introduction to the question coming from the audience, because so we have, you know, and we will build more of these experimentation spaces, but when we validate the technology, what happens next? And what is really important is that we not only launch new initiatives and new instruments, but we also create synergies with the existing ones that are already in the market. And this is so important, and it's really important that all these innovation ecosystem players and elements are involved, and not only national, but at the European level. And for this reason, the European Innovation Council Forum is a really great platform to coordinate such synergies among innovation initiatives and also enable the cross-border collaboration. Because as you know, different stakeholders, when they share their experiences, they can learn from the successes and failures. They can be inspired by the best practices. They can also avoid making the mistakes that maybe someone else made. And I really believe that it's so important to have the right teams, the right mindset to design the right policies, because in the end, really, it's all about the execution.
Thanks a lot, and good that you catch up with the with the first question. I had to interrupt you. I move to Michael now. So as we were saying, the second question that our audience wants to hear about. So please, how to remove barriers, as we said, and boost the innovation performance of SMEs.
I think the greatest barrier is red tape across Europe and in every country. So what we have to do is to see how we can reduce all these bureaucratic procedures and make our ecosystems more reactive, more proactive, and more agile. I think this forum provides the right ground for cooperation in that direction, to exchange ideas, to see best practices from one country from another country, from one ecosystem to another ecosystem, and to adopt them in a quick and efficient way.
Thanks a lot. Right to the point, very effective. Natalie, to you then.
Well, thank you. I'm just thinking of an example of a project that we have started in Croatia to improve its regulatory performance and thus support a stronger business environment. The project will focus on 4 key aspects. First, to optimize and digitalize administrative processes for the reduction of administrative burdens on businesses and SMEs in particular. Second, to implement a digital platform that maximizes the effectiveness of regulatory assessment tools, particularly the SME test, to assess the impact of the legislation on SMEs. Third, to implement new methodologies for regulatory experimentation initiatives, including regulatory sandboxes, we have mentioned this concept, and thus to encourage an innovative and attractive business environment for Croatia. And finally, as in every reform, it is important to raise the awareness about the ongoing efforts and to secure support for the implementation across the public administration and business environment. So this project is very much aligned with our objective in innovation, and it supports the implementation of the National Recovery and Resilience Plan of Croatia.
Perfect. And this is a very good intervention to come very close to the conclusion, but you are not yet free. So first of all, I would really like, I found the discussion extremely rich. You have seen that we have been running a bit because there are so many things to say, not a lot of time, but so much interest and many information we receive. We have been talking about experimentation space, sandboxes, as you mentioned, living labs, test beds, how to use innovation procurement. We have looked at how to target support to member states in their technical and administrative capacity, the support to SMEs, the link of innovation with the public support, strengthening the coordination and creating synergies. So we have touched to all these small, the important elements of the framework condition, and it was very good because we did it hearing from your experience in the field, your experience as an innovator, the experience as policymaker at national level and policymaker and supporters at the level of the European Commission. So I found extremely useful this session, enriching, and I hope that this was also at home. So now what we want to do is to have you giving us the key messages that you want to pass in 1 minute as a conclusion to the audience that is listening to us, based on what you heard and also from your colleagues, based on your key messages. So if you can please give a 1 minute statement and not more than that, because then we will be cut. Again, I do the same round because it's easier to remember. Anna, please.
Thank you so much. I think there is really 3 key messages that we want to take away. And the first one is we need to encourage governments to cooperate on a European level when it comes to experimentation spaces. Second, policymakers should not be afraid of failures, and experimentation spaces are precisely for that. And finally, we really need to focus on supporting entrepreneurs and innovators in real life and not just on paper.
Many thanks, Anna. Instead of 1 were 3 messages, what you managed in 1 minute, so it was very good. Michael, to you, please, your takeaway and your final messages to the audience.
The final message to the audience is that the EU member states need to act in unison instead of focusing on separate nations. And a successful ecosystem can originate if all different actors join forces and focus on utilizing their individual strengths. And at the same time, member states need to adopt a common vision and create more foundations in their ecosystems and how they work together. And they multiply the effect of Europe in the global competition. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Very important messages from your side. Natalie, please.
My word would be, let's be innovative to support innovation. Let's work together. The technical support instrument can be mobilized to do so. So in DG Reform and in cooperation with our colleagues of RTD, we can support member states' reforms for the benefit of SMEs, researchers, for the benefit of entrepreneurship, so to support innovation, to support the green and the digital transition, and all the priorities of the Commission in the context of the post-COVID-19 recovery.
Thanks a lot. All right, so we were very good. We are ahead of schedule with the timing. This allows me, normally in this situation, I wrap up saying they said everything and we close it, but I have 1 extra minute for myself. And this is, I want to really thank all of you, Anna, Michael, Natalie, and Peter, which unfortunately lost the connection, but it was able anyway to give us the key messages at the beginning from his side. I think this session has shown that this is a very important topic, multifacets. There are a lot of different aspects that we need to take into account, and we can be successful in tackling this challenge if we work all together, and each bringing its own experience, its point of view, and listening to each other in a way that we really learn, and then we put forward the tools and the solutions that are really needed by the innovators to to come up with their idea, their innovative process and deep tech technologies and everything that is needed for the transition. So big thanks to you, big thanks to also to all the audience that has been sticking to our session until now, and all the collaborators that were enabled us to prepare this session. And I wish you a nice continuation with the R&I days.